The bell above the door jingled as Michael Carter stepped into Carter's Diner, the place that bore his name. He adjusted the old baseball cap pulled low over his brow, his worn jeans and flannel shirt blending him into the lunch crowd. 15 years earlier, Michael had built this diner from a greasy spoon into a local landmark with 4 thriving locations. But success had pulled him into boardrooms and expansion meetings, far from the people who actually kept his dream alive. Lately, something had felt wrong. Customer reviews were still glowing, but profits at this flagship location were slipping and employee turnover was high. Today, Michael had returned undercover to find out why. He slid onto a counter stool. "Counter's fine," he rasped when the waitress offered him a table. From that vantage, he could see everything. The cooks shouting orders, waitresses darting between tables, the register chiming nonstop. Something still felt off. Then he noticed the dishwasher, a frail, white-haired man moving with deliberate care amid the rush. Every motion was precise, every dish stacked perfectly. His name tag read Henry. "How long's he been here?" Michael asked the young cashier, Megan, as she rang up his order. "Forever," she snorted. "Should have retired years ago if you asked me." Michael watched the old man work. Despite the steam and noise, Henry never lost his composure. When a busboy dumped a tray of dishes into his sink, splashing him with dirty water, he only smiled and kept working. Customers waved him by name, and he always answered with a warm word. Near closing of the lunch rush, a young mother with 2 children approached the register. Michael saw her face fall. She was short on cash. She whispered something to Megan, who frowned and summoned another cashier, Troy. Their tones turned sharp, their expressions annoyed. From across the counter, Henry dried his hands and shuffled over. Michael couldn't hear the words, but he saw Henry quietly slip money from his pocket. The mother's shoulders relaxed as she gathered her children and left, murmuring thanks. "That's the 3rd time this week," Troy muttered. "Old fool's gonna go broke saving strays." "As if he isn't already," Megan added with a laugh. "He sleeps in that junker car is." Michael's stomach twisted. Over the next hours, he saw Henry mop floors others ignored, fix the coffee machine, stay long past the end of his shift. Twice he discreetly covered for customers who came up short. Why does he do that? Michael asked a regular at the counter. "Henry's good people," the man said. "Lost his wife to cancer 5 years back. Wiped out their savings, but he won't take charity. Works through pain every day. They don't make men like him anymore." By evening, Henry was still there cleaning grease traps, another worker's job. The manager, Patricia, told him to go home. "Just finishing up," he said gently. At the counter, Megan and Troy whispered together, glancing toward Henry. Their secretive looks set off alarms in Michael's mind. Moments later, Megan did a showy recount of the register and gasped. "We're short again," Troy announced. "3rd time this week, $42 missing." Patricia frowned. "That can't be right." Henry looked up, confusion crossing his face. Michael felt dread. The hard-working old man was being set up. That night, the disguised owner drove home with a tight jaw. He'd come searching for business data. Instead, he'd found rot. Tomorrow, he vowed, he'd return to learn the full truth. The next afternoon, Michael came back. He sat in a booth with a newspaper propped up his cover. Henry was already washing dishes, slower now, rubbing his wrists. Troy and Megan were whispering again. "So, get this," Troy said. "Old man's been here 7 years. 7? Washing dishes. Pathetic." "What's pathetic," Megan replied, "is how he keeps bailing out broke customers. He's a charity case himself." Michael's hands clenched beneath the table. They laughed cruelly about Henry's beat-up car. Then their voices dropped lower. "Patricia's noticing the register shortfalls," Troy said. "We know Henry's been putting money into the drawer, but she doesn't. So if we help those numbers not add up a bit more." Megan's eyes gleamed. "She'll think he's stealing." "Exactly," Troy grinned. "She fires him. I bring in my cousin, and we split the referral bonus." Michael's blood ran cold. That night, he followed Henry's rattling Buick after closing. The car turned off the main road into a hidden lot behind the diner. where an ancient trailer sagged among weeds. From his car, Michael watched the dishwasher climb the creaking steps, push open the warped door, and flick on a single bulb. Inside, a cramped room barely big enough for one man glowed dimly. Shame burned through Michael. How had he let this happen, one of his oldest employees living like this? The next morning, he spoke to a longtime regular, Ron. Henry lost his wife, Martha, 5 years ago. Ron said quietly. Sold everything for her treatments. Cancer took her anyway. He refused bankruptcy. Said a debt's a debt. He's still paying the hospital, still sending a few dollars to his daughter in Seattle. So she thinks he's doing fine. Michael's throat tightened. And that trailer? Being sold to developers. He hasn't told anyone yet. Michael stared out the window, furious at himself. Somewhere along the way, he'd forgotten what Carter's Diner was supposed to stand for. The next day, he returned again. Troy and Megan were now openly manipulating the register, shortchanging customers, voiding real sales. Henry, oblivious, quietly helped the mother pay her bill again. Megan smirked. Perfect. Another $15 to add to our total. Patricia flipped. That was it. Michael stepped outside and made a phone call. The plan began to take shape. Tomorrow, he promised himself, the truth would come out. The morning rush began as usual. Clinking plates, the hiss of the grill, the familiar hum of conversation. But today, Michael Carter wasn't in disguise. He entered the diner in a tailored navy suit, flanked by his regional manager. The bell above the door jingled, and heads turned. Megan froze mid-pour. Troy's face went pale, and Patricia blinked twice before gasping. "Mr. Carter?" she breathed. Michael nodded once, his voice calm but carrying authority. "Good morning, everyone." The staff fell silent. Henry, standing at the sink, turned slowly. A small smile touched his face, unaware of what was coming. Michael stepped to the center of the diner. "I've been spending the last few days here, undercover." Gasps rippled through the room. "I wanted to see how this place was really being run, and I've learned more than I ever expected." He turned to Patricia. "May I see you in the office for a moment?" Inside, Michael closed the door. He handed her a small folder. Security footage from the past week, register logs, customer refunds, and statements from a few regulars. Patricia flipped through the papers, her face tightening with each page. When they emerged, Michael's expression was grim. "Troy, Megan, you've been caught stealing, falsifying records, and framing a coworker." Megan's mouth opened, then closed. "Wait, sir, it's not." "It is," Michael cut in, his tone cold but steady. "I saw it with my own eyes. You two nearly cost this business one of its most loyal employees." Patricia stepped forward. "You're both terminated, effective immediately." Troy's face flushed crimson. "You can't." Michael's stare silenced him. "Get out." They left without another word, the door slamming behind them. The diner was dead quiet. Michael turned toward Henry. The old man looked confused, dish towel in hand. "Mr. Carter," he said softly, "I didn't steal anything, sir. I swear." "I know, Henry," Michael said gently, stepping closer. "I know you didn't." Relief washed over Henry's face, but confusion lingered. "Then why are you here, sir?" Michael smiled faintly. "To thank you." He turned to address the room. "Everyone in this diner should know who this man is. Henry has worked here for 7 years. He's the first to arrive, the last to leave. He fixes what's broken. He covers bills for strangers. He gives more than anyone I've ever met. Even when he has nothing." The staff looked stunned. A few lowered their heads in shame. Michael continued, voice thickening with emotion. "I found out Henry lost his wife 5 years ago, that he's been living in a trailer, still paying medical debts, still sending money to his daughter, so she won't worry." Henry tried to speak, but his lips trembled. "Sir, please don't." Michael raised a hand gently. "Henry, you taught me what this place was supposed to be about. Hard work, compassion, family. Somewhere along the line, I forgot that, but you didn't." He turned to Patricia. "Effective immediately. Henry's position is changing. He's no longer a dishwasher. The room murmured in surprise. Michael smiled. He's now our assistant manager of operations. Full benefits, salary, and a company apartment. For a moment, Henry just stared, as if the words couldn't reach him. Then his knees wobbled. Sir, I don't deserve. Yes, you do, Michael said firmly, taking the old man's shoulders. You've already earned it 10 times over. The diner broke into applause. Some of the staff were crying. Henry's eyes glistened as he looked around the room. People he had quietly served for years, now standing and cheering his name. Later that day, after the crowd had thinned and the sun hung low over the parking lot, Henry walked outside beside Michael. Why'd you come back, sir? He asked quietly. Michael looked toward the glowing diner sign. Because I forgot what Carter's diner was built on. My father started it with one rule. Treat everyone like family. I lost sight of that. You reminded me. Henry smiled faintly. Martha, my wife, used to say that kindness is the only thing you can give away and never lose. Michael's throat tightened. She was right. He reached into his pocket and handed Henry an envelope. Inside was a set of keys and a folded paper. What's this? Keys to the new employee housing unit on Maple Street. Michael said, your new apartment's ready today. And the paper, that's a receipt from the county office. Henry unfolded it. A deed. The small trailer lot he'd been renting had been transferred to his name, paid in full. For the first time in a long time, the old man wept openly. I don't know what to say. Just keep being you, Michael said softly. That's all this place ever needed. 2 weeks later, a local newspaper ran the story. Dishwasher turns hero in undercover boss visit. He gave everything to help others, and found out someone was finally watching. Henry never sought the spotlight, but his story spread like wildfire. Customers began returning not for food alone, but for the warmth that filled the diner again. Michael came by one morning to see Henry behind the counter, not washing dishes this time, but handing out coffee with a smile. Morning, boss, Henry said cheerfully. Full house today. Michael grinned. Just how it should be. They stood together for a moment, watching sunlight stream across the floor. The same diner, but changed. And as the bell over the door chimed again, Michael realized something. He hadn't just rediscovered his business. He'd rediscovered its heart.